Hey, how you doing tonight? Welcome to the channel. Tonight I'm going to be going over Yellowstone Season 4, Episode 6. Spoiler alert, there will be spoilers as usual. First off, so I wanted to cover something that I've been discussing with the season so far in regards to Rip and Walker and Lloyd. It was bugging the hell out of me why Rip wanted Walker dead, essentially. And I knew I was forgetting something. Every time I brought it up, I was in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm forgetting something. So I went back and checked, just did a little bit of skimming through last season. And I actually forgot about one thing. So I do want to correct something. Walker and Rip had a little beef going, essentially because it started with Beth and Walker flirting. So that obviously pissed off Rip. But the more important thing was that Rip was supposed to get killed. And I didn't forget that part. I actually remember that. But I actually thought it was Lloyd that took Rip out to give him the ride on the train. But it was Casey. So Casey took Walker out. He was supposed to kill him, essentially. Then he let him go. Told him to leave town, never come back. And then he came back. And the thing that I could not remember for the life of me was why Rip wanted to kill him so bad. Because he's talking about it a ton right now in this season. He's mentioned it, a couple of times about killing him. And so I do want to correct that. I do recall, in more detail now, why Rip doesn't like Walker. And he does have a reason to dislike the guy. To kill him, sure, I guess he was supposed to be killed anyway, so in Rip's eyes, I'm sure he's like, the guy should be dead anyways. So, and Lloyd brought that up too. Lloyd said that to Rip in the last episode, so I do want to correct that. Rip does have a reason to dislike Walker and want him dead, but Casey made an agreement with Walker in front of Rip that his second chance is he can be a ranch hand on the Yellowstone, and Rip was right there and said he has no problem with it. So I don't know. I remember that part, but I really forgot about the Beth and Rip thing. I'm sorry, the Beth and Walker thing. So I understand. I'm not going to harp on that too much between Rip and Walker. However, the Lloyd and Walker story, I understand Lloyd, he goes as Rip goes, as the ranch goes. So I understand him disliking Walker in that regard, but it's still the Laramie, Walker, Lloyd love triangle that just doesn't make any sense to me. There was no foundation laid between those three, between Laramie and Lloyd. That was just a hookup, and then she moved right on to Walker. So, but yeah, I wanted to talk about that real quick. I wanted to clear that up because I was harping on that. So again, I apologize. I knew I was forgetting something. I knew it was kind of sticking out like a sore thumb. Like, why does Rip have such a problem with Walker? He does have reason to dislike the guy, so I totally get that. But the Lloyd Walker story, I don't know about all that shit. All right, so let's get into this episode. So it opens up with Jimmy. Jimmy, he's on the 4-6's ranch, and we see him. He's no longer sleeping on the floor or on the ground or a bench. He's in his own like shack. Like, I mean, it's nice. He has his own quarters, his bathroom, and they do a quick pan around the room so we can see that he's living okay. And he's just sitting around looking lonely and sad as usual. And he gets called into breakfast, and we get introduced to a guy that they don't introduce his name. So it's just basically his trainer on the Sixes ranch. And they have breakfast, and he gets called out to get going to work, and that's that. He's off to break horses, essentially. And then we cut to we see a little girl, and we don't know like anywhere where she's at. We just know that it looks like they're back in Montana, but we just see a little girl, and she runs over to she sees the fence has been cut on the land, and so she calls for mom. Boom, end of scene. So then we get Beth and Rip having coffee in the morning, having a little conversation. Nothing too big going on there. It was okay. And then Beth heads into the main house, and So at the end of the last episode, we see that Summer and John uh, went back to the ranch together. So Beth walks into the kitchen. Summer's standing there and just one of John's shirts, one of his button-up shirts, and it just. I mean, again, I feel like I'm kind of harping on this. Beth just is stupid. She does stupid shit. She pulls a fucking knife on her, and it's gonna like stab her. Like it was so stupid. It was just so forced to show how crazy Beth is, and it was ridiculous. It just came off as really stupid. Then John comes in, kind of breaks it up, and I don't understand. I don't understand how John could allow like his daughter to be this way. I mean, she's a grown ass woman, but this is John's house. Like this is his home, and he invites a guest to his home. It's a woman. Beth doesn't like it, and then she pulls a knife on her. So it was just a really forced, dumb scene. Then they go to breakfast. I'm sorry, they have breakfast at the table, and it was actually kind of a better scene. I thought it was. I wish the whole knife scene was just cut out, and they just did the breakfast scene because it was actually kind of funny. Beth and Summer are giving each other shit. Beth's running her mouth like always, but in a way that I thought was fitting because she's a vegetarian, she's an activist, so their back and forth actually worked. I actually liked it. And it was a funny little play on Summer and her diet. They have a little conversation about that, and the cook, they're trying to figure out what to feed her, and she has all these like stipulations with her eating. So I actually thought that scene was pretty good. That knife scene was just stupid. So then we cut to Casey and Monica and Tate. They're out looking at a new home, and it's Montana, yeah. And it's a beautiful country. I mean, geez, I'd love to own a house up there. But, it's a big home, barn, and lots of land. And Tate's doing better, which is good. He's playing with the dog that was, I guess, just hangs around the property. So it was a good scene. So then we cut to Jamie, and he's standing in the middle of his field, of his property, like Batman. I don't know what the hell he's doing. He's like standing there all awkward. His legs are all wide. And he's holding a gun. And then he goes inside and his dad's having breakfast. And Jamie pulls the gun on him and he starts giving him really stupid directions like an officer would, telling him to stand up slowly, take 5 paces back. And it was just dumb. And Jamie is such a weakling that anytime he tries to be tough like this, it just falls flat. And it's funny because his dad just doesn't even give a shit, which is Garrett. And he confronts Garrett about Terrell Higgins and about did he have anything to do with it. And I thought it was a good scene for Garrett, his character, the way he explained it to Jamie being his biological father. It actually was a pretty decent scene. It wasn't great, but it was okay. And we know, yes, he did. He wasn't hiding anything about it. He said he absolutely did, and he's going to keep trying to kill the Duttons until he's successful. And Jamie is just, like I said, he's weak. He's such a weak character that he just ends up collapsing in his arms, crying, and it was just I guess it was a good scene for Garrett, but for Jamie, he goes in there with the intention of like bringing him in maybe, or shooting him. But, 2 minutes of speech and Jamie's a whimpering mess. So he's just a puss. And then we got to Casey and his family. So the fence that was cut, Casey gets called by Rainwater to come and check it out. So the fence that was cut was on the reservation, and it was an Indian family that lives there. It's their land, and I guess they have they do horse relay racing, is what Rainwater says. So they called Casey in because their horses were stolen, and they want him to investigate. And this scene was just fine until when Casey gets there, Rainwater is there with Mo, and they start walking to where they point to where the thieves escaped, or where they made their exit. And so they're walking out there, and Casey's he's observing, and he's putting together, like, okay, they were on dirt bikes, and then he says he wants to talk to the family, and Rainwater says they're inside hiding from you, and Mo says a white man with the badge tends to do that around here. And I thought it was ridiculous it was so unnecessary, because when Casey gets there, he says, I don't have any jurisdiction here. Why did you even call me? And Rainwater says, you have jurisdiction 50 yards in that direction, which is where they're standing at this point. And he's saying, basically, we know, but they left and went on your land off the reservation, so you can. And it was just such a forced line. It did not need to be said. It was so stupid just to sort of throw that out there, because if Casey was on the reservation, we've already seen that when any of the livestock agents, they won't even deal with the reservation. Anytime they do, they go on there. They don't. Those people don't really have any fear of them. They know that they're not supposed to be there. They know they have their own jurisdiction. They are under their own laws. I just thought it was such a cheap little agenda line that was stupid. So Casey, he does walk up to the family, and they come outside, and they reintroduce a character, and I don't remember what season she was from, maybe one. This really pretty ranch hand, and she worked at the Yellowstone for a little while. And she comes out, and Casey recognizes her, and they start talking, and they have a couple smirks, and she's, you could tell she's giving him the eyes. And Monica, it's funny because Monica's right there watching this, and she's just instantly jealous. I thought it was good. It was a good scene. It wasn't nothing bad outside of that whole badge thing. It was so stupid. So then we cut to the cowboys. They're working in the field, and John is bringing Summer back to town after the whole thing at the breakfast table. Summer's, she's done. She says she's out of here. She wants to get taken back to town. And it was an okay scene, because there's a stray calf that's on the side of the fence that's next to the road. So John pulls over, and then we can see Rip and the other ranch hands from the Yellowstone. They're herding cattle, and he calls Rip over, and they're just talking, just like work talk, like, all right, let's take care of the fence and get the calf back to the mom, and then we walk the fence and make sure it's okay. And it wasn't a bad scene, but it was like this. It was a scene that was set up to really make Summer realize how much they love their job, and it was so forced to me, because she sees one action, like one little task that they do, and she's like, I can tell that you guys love what you do, and I understand you a little bit more, or whatever. And I don't know, it was just kind of weird. It was like, I wish they would have spent more time with Summer actually seeing how the ranch is run. But whatever, that's just me. And then she says she wants to walk the rest of the way to town, and John says, okay, let you go. So then we head back to the Sixes Ranch, back to Jimmy working, and his boss, or the guy who's his point guy, the I wouldn't call him a trainer, but he's basically like training him or whatever, training Jimmy. And he tells him, he says some stuff to him. It's the end of the day, and he's telling him that he can't ride worth the shit, but he doesn't complain about it. So, it makes it good. And then he tells him he needs to learn how to rope. So Jimmy, he heads inside. He's in tons of pain. He's riding unbroken horses, or horses that are in the process of being broken. So he's getting beat up in the saddle all day. So he's in a lot of pain. Then he eats, and then he heads out, and he starts practicing with rope. He has like a little dummy, like a little calf dummy or whatever, and he practices. So good. It was good to see him. Like the show drug its feet for so long with Jimmy. It spent the last 2 episodes with him doing nothing. So it's kind of nice to actually see him going through something. I don't see the greatness of the Sixes yet. I mean, they're doing the same shit that they were doing in Yellowstone. I don't know how this is any different. All right, so then we cut to, so it goes right to Lloyd and Carter. They're in the barn at the Yellowstone, and they're practicing doing the same thing that Jimmy was doing. And they're talking. They're having a nice, they're having a good time. They're having a laugh, and Lloyd's teaching him how to rope, and Carter's doing pretty good. And then Carter asks Lloyd why he's not in the bunkhouse, and Lloyd tells him that there's no room for outcasts like them. Carter talking about Carter too, and it was interesting because it was a nice conversation between the two at first, and then it sort of went into the whole that Carter says that he has apologized to her, speaking about Beth, and Lloyd gives him some decent advice and says, maybe it's the way you said it, so try a different way to say you're sorry. And then Carter says, you should try the same shit, take your own advice. And I didn't think it was a bad scene, but it still hinders on that stupid shit between Beth and Carter. So it's kind of dumb to me. So then we cut to the bunkhouse, and they're in there playing cards, all the cowboys, and shooting the shit like normal. And then Lloyd walks in, sits around for a few seconds, takes a look at Walker. Walker's playing the guitar. Laramie's sitting next to him, and she's hugging up on him and stuff. They're all having a laugh. And then Lloyd just gets up and grabs the guitar out of his hand, smashes it up against the wall, and then it's on. So then Walker says some shit to Lloyd that I liked. He's basically saying, you're a fucking bully. That's what he says. And at some point the bigger bully will show up, and then you're going to be, then we'll see how you act. And Lloyd pulls a knife out and throws it at Walker and sticks it in his chest. Actually, it's kind of like his shoulder up by the clavicle. It was such a weird scene because we already did this. We did the fight, and we're back at it again. And Lloyd's been told, you can't do this. So I don't know, like the whole Lloyd Walker thing. I mean, make of it whatever you think of it. I mean, maybe you really like this fight between them two, or this rift, but I just think it's so, I'm tired of it. It's just the same shit. So he stabs him, and then they're there's chaos, obviously. They're grabbing Lloyd, holding him down, and then Mia, she walks out, and Laramie's asking her for help, and she's like, I'm out of here, screw this, good for Mia. And then we cut to Beth and Rip. They're in the middle of having sex, and then the cowboys show up to his house, and they bring Lloyd there, and they talk to they actually, I don't think they talk yet. So he just sees that it's Lloyd and wants to know what's going on. And we cut back to the vet and the bunkhouse, and he's taking care. They call in a vet instead of a doctor. They make a point to say that. So then the vet shows up, and they're working on Walker to get the knife out, and they're saying like they actually say it's like hooked on his clavicle, like his bone, so they can't pull it out. And then he's complaining, he's saying, get this out of me. So then Laramie just pushes through and grabs the knife and just yanked it out of his chest, which was, that would suck. So they, that scene was okay. It was, it was decent. And then we see John talking to Lloyd, and he's still out. He's still cuffed up. He's on the ground, and John's just telling him, this is your last chance. You don't do this one more time, you pull any other shit, you're out. And out, usually means death. So, and he tells Rip that he wants Walker and Lloyd in the pen until it's over, all the way done. They're going to fight until this is done, and then whoever is the last man standing, make an example out of them. So we cut to Casey and Monica having a little pillow talk about the pretty girl. Not a bad scene. It's kind of nice, it's kind of nice to see, nice to see that group, Casey, Monica, and Tate, having trying to get back to a normal life. So it's not a bad scene at all. So the next day, Rip, he calls a meeting with all the ranch hands, and he gets them all to the bunkhouse, asks where he wants to know where Mia's at, and they say she's already gone. And then he hands Laramie and Teeter an envelope, and he says, "You're both gone." Now, this was some bullshit, because John, and just was John's call, by the way. John said he wanted all the girls out of the bunkhouse, and Rip is just following orders. And he does stick up for Teeter. He does say, "What about Teeter?" And he says, "No, they're all gone," which was fucking stupid. Teeter is a really cool character. I really like her. She's one of my favorite characters. And she has been nothing but good to the Yellowstone. She wears the brand. She has bled for them. She almost died for them. And then for John to toss her out, I thought that was some bullshit. I just thought it was really stupid. And Laramie, she's just a barrel racer. She has no, and Mia, they're just there because Laramie's sleeping with Walker, or was sleeping with Lloyd, then Walker, and Mia was with Jimmy. And then Jimmy left. So Mia was just kind of hanging out. I mean, they show them helping and everything, but they're not ranch hands. They don't wear the brand. So I understand them being told to leave, but Teeter, I just thought that was dumb. Didn't like it. Then they drag Lloyd and Walker into the there's like one of the pens or whatever, and make them fight. And it was so dumb that Walker would even be able to do anything, because Walker puts up a hell of a fight. They get into this long, fight. He actually cuts away and comes back to them a couple of times. Walker would, I'm sorry. I mean, he took like a 4-inch blade at least all the way into his chest right here, or his upper chest, lower shoulder, whatever. And it's like scraping on his clavicle bone. Sorry. Sorry. You're not just going to be rolling around, 8 hours later in the mud like it's no big deal. But whatever. So they start fighting. And, oh yeah, so Carter, he goes to walk away, and Rip calls him over and makes him watch, which, a little questionable there. But so then we cut to Jamie. So he's at work, and we already know that Beth negotiated with market. I don't know why I always say that, Market Equities. She made the negotiation to take the controlling stake of Schwarzenmeyer, and Schwarzenmeyer has deals with Jamie, with the state, and his assistant says the head of Schwarzenmeyer is there in the conference room waiting for your meeting. So he walks in, and it was so stupid. It's like he saw a ghost, and it's just so dumb, and he's so weak. And I swear he is just there. I mean, they've turned him in such a weak character. He's useless to me in this show. He really doesn't have any more redeeming qualities to me. And the way he acts around Beth, he acts just like an abuse victim. Like he's just so scared of her, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And Beth's sitting there with her feet on the table, and she's putting ashes out on the table. And the thing that I don't like about Beth, and I've said this before, maybe I haven't said it directly like this, but Hollywood has been driving in this toxic masculinity shit. Like it's this bad thing. And what they mean by that is being masculine in any way is toxic. So males need to cut it out. And there's been commercials. There's been plenty of TV shows like this one. Plenty of movies that hammer that sort of stereotype in, where if a man is acting in any way masculine, they always make him overdo it, so he's a douchebag, and then so they can label like masculinity as toxic, which is stupid. A douchebag is a douchebag. A guy who's being a dick is just, he's going to be a dick, and the thing is they cast and they write characters like Beth to exhibit the exact same behavior. The jerk, dickhead, toxic masculinity that they've labeled, she acts exactly the same way, and it makes her cool, and it makes her a badass, and it makes her likable. I'm sorry, but if she was a male, it'd be the same story. It'd be like, God, I can't stand this person. If Beth was Bob Dutton and he was acting the way she's acting, I would just be so annoyed with him. I would be waiting for the shoe to drop, that, he's going to get some comeuppance at some point because he's just a dick. And Beth's being the same way. But it's okay because it's a female. And you may not feel that way. You may see her character as a very strong and powerful woman. And I will give her character this. She's a competent woman. She is intelligent. She can be funny. She has qualities that I do like, but they are overshadowed by this relentless beating of like her being so tough and her being such a badass. And it just takes away from her character. And she spends all of her time being obnoxious and vulgar and insulting people versus showing me the intelligence and showing me the competence and the leadership. It just that you have to have a balance. And right now the scale is completely tipped in the she is the whiskey swigging, cigarette smoking, Billy badass walking around town with her boots on everyone's desk. And it's like you do realize that you've created a character that's being kind of a jerk. So unless and she never has to pay for anything that she does. Now, hold on, let me rephrase that. She has gone through shit. She has absolutely taken some lumps. So I'm not trying to take away that part of the character, but again, it's in between everything. She's just being this way. She's just being this. Again, I didn't put it this way. This is what is being beat into from the media and from Hollywood. Is what's being beat into the show is toxic masculinity and how bad it is. She is a prime example of what that is, but it's okay. So yeah, it just, you know what, and I'll leave it at that. I really won't. I'm over talking about her, and I'm over like it's annoying every time she's on screen. It's the same shit. So it's just her character, I guess. So Jamie's being a big wuss about the whole thing, and that's pretty much it. So then we cut to Casey and Monica. They're talking with Tate. They're on the property and talking about the dog and naming the dog. And then we cut back to the fight again, which is still going on. And we see John. He comes out and he's watching. At this point, they're both, bloodied up pretty good and they're exhausted. But Walker's laying down on his back. He looks like he's done. And Lloyd he's still staggering around on his feet. And so John wants to make the example. Basically, Rip's done. Rip tells John that Walker's done and he's been done. And so John takes off his hat and puts on some gloves. He's going to go into the pen and make the example, like he said, out of the last man standing. And Rip stops him and says, they'll hate you, because everyone's there. All the ranch hands are watching. And he says, they'll hate you if you do it, sir. I'll do it. So he goes in, beats up Lloyd a little bit more, and then breaks his hand. Stomps on him with his boot. And I guess that was the message, and I'm sure breaking his hand, I don't know where this is going to go, but obviously he can't do his job. So we'll see what's going on with that. But it's interesting because as Rip is walking back towards John to leave the pen, Lloyd goes over and helps Walker up. And I thought that was significant. I was like, is this finally over? I really hope so. I mean, what else? And if so, then it worked, right? John's plan worked. They got it out of their system. So they both walk over to John, and he says, he says something like one line, like, "We're done with this," and they both say, "Yes, sir." They're done. And John goes one way, Rip goes the other, and one of the ranch hands is picking up, I think, Walker's wallet or Lloyd's wallet, and Carter tells him, I forgot at some point, him and Carter had said something about what Carter wants to be. And this ranch hand, he's always there, but he's not like he's always in the background, and he does have lines, but he's not like a prominent ranch hand. But he had told, he asked Carter what he wanted to be. And I don't think Carter had an answer, but he's talking to Carter now, and he says, Carter tells him, I know what I want to be, or who I want to be. And he says, I want to be him. And he looks up, and it's John. John's walking up the hill. And then we also see Rip. He's off to the side of the barn, and he's upset. He's hunched over. He takes his hat off. He's upset. And again, I think that's the stuff that's why Rip is likable, because he's such a hard ass. He is way too physical, and he's a dick. He really is. He's just an asshole. But he also has he has that moral compass. You know, he does have a code that he lives by, and you know, having to do that to Lloyd sucked. And it was nice to see that he had actually bothered him, that he didn't want to do it, but he did do it for John, for the ranch. And that was it. You know, we see John walking up the hill, and that's the end of the episode. So all in all, it was a better episode for sure. I thought it had some good scenes. Definitely felt like we were moving along, you know, with the Lloyd Walker shit. I'm glad hopefully that's squared away. We now see Jimmy, what's going on with him. So, and now we know about the Garrett, Jamie's father, about being involved with the hit on the Duttons and why he did it. So there was actually a lot of things that happened. How they were executed is questionable. I didn't think it was perfect. And some of it was really poor, but it wasn't bad. It was this show to me it's, you know, the idea of it seems really good on paper. And when you explain it to someone, it's like, oh, that sounds like a really exciting show. There's, you know, this crazy shit that's going on this ranch. But during the execution, it gets a little tiresome. So, but it did bounce back from the last two episodes. 4 and 5, I thought, were really slow and very boring and just treading water. So I'm glad to see the show getting things moving again. But that's the end of the episode, and I'm going to wrap it up there. So if you liked the video and you thought I respected your time, share it with your friends. Click the subscribe button. Other than that, you have a great night. I'll talk to you later. Bye.